Thank you so much. I felt
Thank you.
that one. I felt the last one, but I felt that one even more.
Wow. Wow. I'm glad. My pleasure.
Thanks. What
Yeah.
a nice way to, I like that. Thank you for doing that.
It's for me as well. Sometimes we need a little respiration before the conversation.
Definitely, definitely. It's good to like settle into it too, because I'm like a little kid. I get all like charged up right before.
You get charged up. Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, you know what I also wanted to do was encourage people throughout this to share this because I hear there's power in numbers. And also um maybe at some point we can do another little breathing like towards the end or something. And if you're into that,
Of
like a
course.
guided. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I
Sure.
had some thoughts, if you don't mind. I'm just gonna get right at it here because I wrote a bunch of stuff down right before I got on the phone here. And last week we were talking about, you mentioned about when one of the words I mentioned was love, and you started to talk about when you were younger, how you used to give, and not refill your own cup. So what I made my homework for the week was to fill my cup. And I thought about that comment that you made a lot of times through the week, and I kept remembering to, just give back to myself as much as possible. So thank you for that because it stuck with me from last time.
Wow, Dan. How have you been giving back to yourself, Danny?
Just by like stopping and doing breath work, which I wasn't even doing the week before very much, and like going outside more, um, giving myself lots of time off of the phone, um, eating some really good food. I started to make, today was the first day of smoothies because it feels too cold to have them sometimes in the winter. So I started my drinks with like greens and fruits and vegetables and stuff, and oh, it was so good. It was such a treat, and just treating myself like that. Like I took a couple baths, meditated during the bath. Just some really like deep like time with myself.
Wow.
Um, and it brought up other things too that I was thinking about that when I lived in Tucson a few years back, I had the privilege of going to an acupuncture doctor. His name's Juan Tejeda, and he is amazing. So if anyone is in Tucson, he's amazing. I think they're called American Acupuncture. But Juan Tejeda, he's in his 70s. You would never know it. He's so inspiring of a person, and I got to go and get some acupuncture with him for about a year, and he would always tell me to come back to my heart.
Mm,
He kept saying, "Come home, Danny. Come home to your heart."
mm.
And I knew what he meant. I knew the words he was saying to me, but I almost couldn't do it. And
What?
at that time, like I had a lot going on, or like it was right in 2020. Um, Life was just different, I guess, but like I realized through filling my cup that part of that is just that little treat of coming home to your own heart. Like, and I knew what he meant, but he said it to me every time, and he would tap on my chest and say, like, come right here. And I am just in the last couple weeks, even, I've like done it more than my whole life, probably, which I consider refilling my cup. So I feel
Wow.
like that's really important,
Wow.
you know?
Even these last 2 weeks, you feel you've done it more than
Yeah,
ever?
yeah, because I've just been like, I don't know, through farming and like starting to do these farmers markets and like really feeling like I need all my energy to now go back out in public and stuff. I've just like, it's that and maybe some meditations that I've done online, with along with other people and just things that have been happening. I mean, yeah, it's been more than the last 2 weeks, but just in these last 2 weeks, it's been really like apparent. Like I had an epiphany yesterday of like, I'm actually coming home. Like I get what he was trying to tell me this whole time, you know? And it's weird because we can hear words and actually not all the way grasp them for a really long time.
Right.
So like coming home to my home to right here is like, it seems like I would have been able to do that the whole time, but I just, yeah, I feel like it's very recent that it's like really like resonating, and it makes me smile. And it's not, I guess I've gone through a lot of um hardships and I'm on the other side of them right now, so I'm seeing things in a different way.
Mm.
So I'm smiling more when I do it. Maybe when I did it before, I would cry, you know?
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah. Anyway, sorry, I went.
Hello, I mean, hello from the other side. You know, you're on the other side now. It's like they do say that home is where the heart is.
Yes.
You know, that's a big saying. But why do you feel, Dani, that it's so hard for many people to understand that or really understand that on a deep level?
I feel like one of the things that came up for me too this week when I was thinking about these things is like, I feel like we all spend a lot of time over years and years looking for something outside of ourselves to make ourselves happy in that moment, whether it be like food or like something that we just have to go out and buy because we think we need it, or just any external things. Like I feel like there's a lot of people, I myself did it, where it's like for some reason it's so scary just to look within, but it's really not. But we think it is. And so we search for all these things outside of ourselves, you know what I mean? And and once we actually look inside of ourselves and we like come home and it feels good and we can smile about it and be all by ourselves in a room, like just there, like okay with just being right there, it's, I don't know, I turned a corner with it for sure. And it's obviously like, you know, who knows how long it'll take for some people, but for me, I've had a lot of, you know, these types of, you know, empowered moments in my life where I've turned a corner. But like lately, it feels like, wow, like I'm getting to a next level with it where I feel like I can radiate it out to so many people now. Like
Mhm.
way more than ever, where I'm not going to have the social anxiety that I used to have. I'm going to just be like, if I feel anything like that, I'll be able to be in that moment and just be still, and I'll open my eyes and there'll be a bunch of people and animals staring at me, probably like, what is she doing?
Right, right. You know, you're emanating, you're radiating, you know, from and allowing it to shine out, you know. When
Yeah.
you shine bright and you see that light, exactly, you know, especially when you also see it reflected in others, when you connected with others, like with your acupuncturist, Wu Tahiti, you said Wu Tahiti?
Juan Tahita, yeah.
Juan Tahita.
Uh,
Okay. Juan Tahita, I mean, he sounds like he lives a lot from his heart, you know, from
yeah,
within the heart. And you said that he's in his 70s, but you could never tell.
no way.
Why do you like you can't tell? What do you feel like keeps someone like him youthful, you know?
He takes time for himself
Mm.
every every day. It's funny, my voice just resonated on my banjo. I heard it. Whoa. Um, yeah, he takes time for himself. Like when I would go see him, if it was close to their lunchtime, him and Sherry, his beautiful wife, they had their practice in their house and they have all these rooms, but like, you know, there were a lot of times I'd come there and he'd be out in the garden meditating in between. He took so much time for himself. And
Mm.
and you know, he didn't feel, I feel like he wouldn't work on everyone unless he felt like his energy was clean, you know? So, yeah, and I've been hearing a lot of other people say this lately, just in the last week. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. There's something happening right now that's like, it's like I feel a definite step up in like all the knowledge that's coming to me lately. It's a lot more clear, and it's because of that. But I'm also seeing the world change because I'm changing. And so, yeah, I mean, I mean, he used to, like, I'd sit there and cry with him and, like, tell him all these things, and I'd hold all these painful stories until I got there with him, and then I'd cry with him. You know, now my dad has been gone for years and years, like 20 years, so probably that's part of it. I wanted to, like, you know, be with my dad for a minute, or someone, a father figure to, you know, to experience all those feelings with. But I feel like that's the part of me that's left now, is the part that had to, like, couldn't go through it by myself. I feel
Mm.
like I had to go cry with someone else, or I had to, like, tell someone this sad story or whatever, project it out. And I feel like now, um, yeah, I can sit with all the feelings, you know, and I think that's what he really taught me. I don't think he's on social media. I doubt it, but I would love for him to even hear me saying all this right now, because it really, I knew I was getting a beautiful treatment. My body always felt better when I went there. Acupuncture is amazing. I was so afraid to do it at first because I don't like needles and stuff, and it's something that really calms my whole nervous system down, so I would feel better. But I'd always leave there, like, wanting to cry because I didn't all the way get it, and I wanted to know how to come home. Like, why am I not able to come home? And it's just because I gave myself all that time to be with all the different feelings, but alone. And yeah, it's like you almost have to, like, picture your heart in, like, a cartoon style, and like see it. And you're like, okay, I'm touching that cartoon, like that beautiful, like, you know, and then feel like, oh, okay, I'm me. Like, look at your hands, like you do when you first do psychedelics or something. Like, it's actually me.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, no, I agree, and I know that he can hear it, even though you say that you don't think he can hear it. I believe that he can hear it. He's spirit,
Yeah.
and, all the words that you're sending that loving energy his way right now, even as you speak. And our
Feels that way.
subconscious, it doesn't know the difference. As you're speaking good things and positive things about him, your mind also is speaking those things about yourself, because what we
Yes.
feel other we feel about ourselves as well. And just even as you were speaking, Danny, Nabiha's down here, she said that's the key when you were talking about his regimen and his routine and his rituals.
Yeah.
That's the key she was talking about, of being youthful, staying young in that way. You mentioned when you would see him, or sometimes you would walk up into him in the garden and he would just be meditating, like
Yeah.
meditating in the garden. You reminded me, there was a book I read one time, and it was called The Rise of Kyoshi. Have you ever seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Yes.
You've seen that show?
Yes. A
Yeah.
little bit. Not all of it, but yes.
Yeah. So you know about the avatars and the different avatars, right?
Yeah.
So one of the avatars of Aang's ancestry was an avatar named Kyoshi. And there's a book that talks about her life. She had a mentor when she was coming up, and his name was Lao Ge, almost like Lao Tzu, the one who wrote the Tao Te Ching. And Lao Ge, this brilliant old man, he was so unassuming, so just like nonchalant, so out of the way, so you could easily pass by him on the street, just like a man in his 70s or whatever, right? And you would think nothing of it, but his energy was immense. His energy was powerful. His when he would direct that energy, he could achieve anything.
Yep.
And it came through concentration, relaxation, and meditation. He spent so much time. In fact, there were so many chapters in the book that she would just look around and he would be gone from the group. And she would go off into the woods and she would find him sitting in meditation,
Yeah. Nice.
before the next adventure. So I find that very, very key, that we don't realize. Sometimes we underestimate how much we can gain when we maintain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also find like what I'm thinking while you're saying that last part is that like I know like from growing up around lots of different types of people and different ages. I mean, my dad was 20 years older than my mom, so my dad's friends were all, you know, older. My dad would be like in his 90s now.
Mhm.
Um, and it's interesting because like I grew up around like older men that like would be like, "What's that guy doing? What's that hippie doing? Sitting around?" Like, you know, like that was like frowned upon in certain like. There's a lot of people still that feel like they are doing something wrong if they sit for an hour because they're not doing all these other things and rushing around and like doing all the stuff. And like, I feel like people need to understand that like that's the most important lesson is to take that time and it's not nothing because if you're meditating, if you're one of the many beings on this planet that are stopping and taking that time to calm yourself, your nervous system so that you're radiating that out, then you're doing work for all of us. You're actually working. You're sitting at, but you're actually working if you're doing that, unless you like fell asleep or something. But you know, if you're taking the time to get yourself right before you go out in public every time or before you work, do, you know, like if you're a massage therapist, before you put hands on somebody or anything that you do, even any kind of work, before you do it, you come home to your heart and then you know, you give yourself back that love, and then wherever you go, you're giving the love back out. And so that seems like our service here. And so I know there's a lot of people that might have, you know, like myself, that grew up around people who would be like, hey, you know, why are you just sitting there like you're doing nothing? And of course, it doesn't matter what other people say or judge you for doing. It's your time here, but still, like, actually, I want people to understand that it's work. It's work, especially some of the positions that if you sit in and out, like yogis sit in for hours. I mean, it actually is very hard on your body. It's not like comfortable sometimes. So, and feelings come up.
Mm.
So, getting clear is a service to everyone, I think. So, yeah, it's there's so many things right now. Like, um, I should let you speak for a little bit, but there was other words that I wrote down again.
No, but I agree.
I don't know how long I have you for, so I'm like,
Hey,
oh.
you have me. You know, I'm here, so
And
I'll
everyone
definitely.
else too.
Go
Let's see, but that was important though. The filling our cup back up part that you said last week stuck with me very hard, and I hope that everybody practices that because that's really one of the most important things because you really can't affect anything in a good way unless you are affecting yourself good first.
ahead. It's
Right? All right.
important. You know, it's important. It's like you remind me. You know, there's something to be said about stillness, and we talk sometimes. We use it as a little limerick or a little rhyme, like, you know, the more stillness, the less illness, right? But when you
Yeah.
think of like a snow globe, if you've ever taken one of those snow globes, you know, and you've shaken it up and you see all the snow, it's like all the particles in the snow globe. And it's kind of
Right.
mind, you know, all the time the mind has all these thoughts everywhere going on. But if when you just set that globe down and you just allow it to be still, you don't move it, you don't touch it, you don't fidget, all of that dust just settles down and it's completely clear, you know. And it's, you know, just like the lotus grows in still waters, you know, we can grow the same. Yeah, there's a lot to be said.
That's beautiful. I like that analogy. It's fun to watch that because even as you said it, any little thoughts in my mind like went, you know what I mean? It's good. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. It's such an important time to do this right now too. I feel like, and I found relatable references um, to share with the world, even in this. That I mean, kind of relate to this, but um, one of the things that has come up for me through, I never watch TV shows, but every once in a while, like it's like a treat where I'm like so tired because the other day I transplanted like 90 plants for the farmer's market because they were this long, and so I had to like put them all in bigger pots. And after that, I was crawling around on the ground and my body was all stiff. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make something good to eat, something healthy, and I am gonna watch something because I never do. So I watched a repeat episode, um, and then the first episode of a show called Ted Lasso,
Ted
which is
Lasso?
so random.
I never seen that one.
Ted Lasso it's on Apple TV, so I guess not everyone has it, but it's Jason Sudeikis. He plays a soccer coach that he has a family and he moves to the UK to he's a football coach here in America. He moves to the UK to coach a soccer team in England. And um, the show has a lot to do with that, but it has much to do with his character. And they're in the third season now, but it's very interesting because the theme, I'll just like cut to why I'm even bringing this up, because they have these hidden themes in the show. And there was a theme there. So this one guy that has turned kind of like evil, I guess, that's like become a coach of an opposing team. He gets on live, on his interview live with all the press there, and he calls Ted Lasso stupid and says mean things. And then later that day, Ted Lasso gets on and does his press conference, and he's like, "Oh, that Nate the Great," he's like, "Yeah, he's a good guy, good kid," like he's like, he should be mad. Everyone's like all tense, like, oh, what's he gonna say back? He just got someone just talked so bad about him on to the whole world, and all he did was like he says all these beautiful, loving things back, and says all the things that he smiles and says good things about him instead of saying anything mean back. He very tactfully says a bunch of like loving statements back, basically. And then after that, I actually watched another show, and as the universe does, it connected because somebody on there brought up that if you use love to diffuse, then it's like if you're just like projecting out love, there's like in the show when that happened, everybody was like, oh, like wow, and then they're all smiling again. Like it's just like instead of coming back at anger with anger, you come back at it with love,
Mhm.
and then watch what happens. Like it just heals everybody. Like no one can do anything about it. That whole kill them with kindness thing is like not kill them, but it basically, I don't know. I just there's this overall theme of as much love as you project out is going to come back to you, and it's going to heal the others that were even projecting negative on you. And so they put that like very carefully into a show, and I thought it was pretty good writing because it's amazing, and everyone's so angry, even the owner of the team, and she's standing there watching, and then she just like almost starts crying and smiles and puts her head down because everyone's expecting negative to happen, and then if something loving happens, like you watch it just like turn like whitewash, like just light covers everything, and everyone's like, ah, you know. So
Right.
like my theory for everything right now, I
Yeah.
guess.
I love that too because, why do you feel like people are expecting negative things to happen? Because in that example, I love what you were talking about. It's like instead of fighting fire with fire, instead of fanning the flames or adding more logs and woods to the fireplace, to keep it burning, he doused it with love.
Yeah.
It just extinguished the flame.
Yeah.
You know, it was nothing. So why do you feel like the people were expecting something negative, and when they got something positive, they were surprised?
Because it's an old story. It's what they're used to seeing. That's the whole thing. Like I feel like these are all little baby epiphanies of what's happening right now. Because like no one has to react to anything how we're used to reacting to things right now. Like we're being given a chance, I feel like, to react to everything with love and see what happens. Like give it a shot, you know? Like really, really see if you give love back to something instead of, you know, pumping like that anger into it and like feeding it, like you said, the fire with the fire, then see what it's like, you know? And I think that people are so used to like someone saying, "Hey man," like whatever, like talking shit to someone, and then like, you know, like oh, like later when you know they're gonna fight because you know he has to say something back. Like people were like brought up to think that like you're not a man unless you like you know say something horrible back to that person, but that's not true at all. You're a bigger man if you stand up and give that guy a hug when he's about to punch you, or like, you know, maybe it's not always easy to do that, but like, you know, any way that you radiate love at someone when they're coming at you with anger, they'll a lot of times they might start crying
Mm.
and need to have cried and not cried for 10 years or something, and like because you came back at them with love instead of feeding their anger with anger,
Right.
then you taught them something, and then everybody learns, and then everybody wants to hug because they see this beautiful example. These two people were supposed to fight, and now it diffused, and then everybody else is like, oh, you know, like chances are everybody else is gonna like look next to them and hug that person or something, you know. So
It,
it does spread.
it's contagious, you know.
Yeah.
Contagious. It spreads fairly quickly. You know, there's so many examples that we see. I even saw that you enjoyed or you liked. There was a something I put up on the story where somebody was walking out of a store, and then somebody was coming in the other opposite direction. They were coming into the store,
Yeah.
and so as this woman was walking out of the store, the other guy was walking into the store. Somehow they collided. You know, they coincided, and he just okay. It was kind of awkward, and then he tried to step around him, but then he stepped at the same time, and then he tried to step around him, then he stepped at the same time, and kept blocking each other, right? From getting out and into the store. And then one guy just gave up, and he just started dancing. He just started
Nice.
dancing, and the other guy was like, "Huh?" And then he looked next, so he saw the other guy was dancing, and they all three they started dancing. They just started dancing. Everybody was dancing. It was just completely. It
Nice.
blew my mind. I loved it. You know, I just watched it so many times because it was a clear example of what you're talking about. You know, that spirit that just it gets into everyone around you.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's contagious in the best possible way.
Yes,
I
it
love,
is.
yeah, I love that.
Especially with
Hmm.
dancing. Because it makes, if anything, even if people are shy, it still makes them laugh, you know? So, like,
Right.
they're gonna be like laughing if they were frowning and they walk by and they see people, three people are all of a sudden dancing that were just about to get in an awkward.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, you know? Yeah,
Yes.
I love that. I'm all about it. I'm a big advocate for like going outside of your normal, you know, the way you are with things or react to things, and just having that word love like right here, and just being like, okay, this just happened.
Hmm.
Okay, love. Okay, what would love do? What would
Hmm.
love do here?
Yeah.
And then see what happens, you know, because it's probably going to turn out great, and it's going to ripple out onto anyone around, any animals around, any plants around, any people around. They're all going to feel it.
And why not? You
Yeah.
know, why not? Why not allow that energy to ripple out? If you're gonna allow anything to ripple out when everything is rippling out anyways, you know, why not allow that to reverberate and come back? You know, why not allow that to be the energy that you attract when you put out just like that? It's like, you know, when you were talking earlier, Dani, what you said is so important for people to realize that we never quite know what someone might be going through. You know, that people might be holding on to things, harboring things, hiding things that, that we have no
Yeah.
idea. You know, somebody cuts you off on the road. There could be a million reasons, you know, why that person might be feeling whatever they're feeling right now. And there are so many times where I'll just be dancing on the road or on the street when I'm out for a walk, and people will honk at me, and people will catch the vibe in the ride. In the ride, they're looking, they see me outside, they're in the ride, they catch the vibe, They're like, okay, I see you. They're parked at a red light and they see me dancing, and they start smiling, like they start pointing, and they catch the rhythm. Or I might be at a skating rink, and I've had so many times that people would say, like, because they're with their little kids and I'm just dancing at the rink, and they're like, my daughter loves you, or my son wants to teach my son how you do that. How do you do that? Everybody's just, caught up in that energy. So it really is coming from the heart, it comes off of you, and we have no idea the circumference of that field. Your energy field, it goes far, especially when that energy is love. Yeah, it goes.
It does. That's wonderful. I love that. I'm so glad that you do that. We're amplifying it right now, the two of us. I feel it. I can feel it right now. It's cool. I feel like I can't see the chat. I'm sorry, you guys. I wish I could like respond to people, but I'm sitting kind of far back. And as you can see, I wear glasses. But I feel like anyone in here right now can feel it. I feel like we're amplifying it, and we do that. And that's part of why I wanted to talk to you more, because I feel like it's important for people like us to get together and let that ripple out, because it's so good. I love it. And I wasn't here that long ago. I just feel like this is right now, this moment, I feel like it's so important to share these things. Like, oh, and what you were just saying about being in traffic, and you don't know what that person's going through. Like, they might be rushing to the hospital to see somebody who's sick, or like something bad just happened to them. That's the whole thing about, like, I mean, if you're able to give love to that person, then you might make their experience easier in that time. Like, you might take away some of their burden right then if you stop and wave at them, or if it's on the street and you hug them, or you tell them they look nice today, or something that changes their, like, gets them out of that. Then you've put that out into the world, and you've healed a little piece of the world just by putting it out there. And I feel like it's important because you don't know what people are going through. And so approaching it with love, you kind of can't go wrong, because hopefully it can help in any situation. Or you can amplify. If somebody else is feeling really good, then you can, like, 3 people are dancing, and then there's like 10 people dancing, and then like you got the whole street dancing, so that's how it should be right now. I just feel like we should all know that we are little, like, radiators of love, and
Right.
it's okay, it's good. And the more that we come home here and that we get right with our heart, then the better it gets, and the farther out it probably goes, I bet.
Yeah, it's a domino effect.
Yeah.
It's a domino effect. You've seen those dominoes,
Yeah.
Dani. I don't know if you ever used to play with dominoes, or used to line dominoes like that.
Absolutely.
But all you do is you just tip one,
Yeah.
like all over. It's amazing to watch, but that's actually happening energetically every day.
Yeah.
Every day is a domino effect. Every action, every word, every thought, every emotion, everything, it creates that. We're just a physical representation of what's happening on a spiritual level in every moment, moment by moment by moment.
Yeah.
So be able to consciously and with intention participate in that with presence, I think, is a beautiful thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're angry, maybe make the choice to not, maybe you don't want to be angry. So then why would you want a bunch of other people to be angry around you? That's silly, Instead, just sit with that anger for a minute, and then think about how I would love to treat this anger right now, and try to turn it around, and it'll probably help a lot of people. Yeah, it reminded me of a hummingbird when you just did that, by the way. That was cool.
Hummingbird.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. Yeah, when you just did that, that was cool because it like hummingbirds seem like I actually I knew someone once that this is crazy, but my roommate worked with the Marleys and did some engineering and some mixing on a Ziggy Marley album, and he told me a story once about like the Jamaican people believe that hummingbirds, when they visit you like that, it's like they're blessing you, but it's like they're moving so fast that it's like with whales, how there's like supposedly there's like many consciousness, like mass consciousness inside of a whale, supposedly. But when a hummingbird like comes by you like that, that they give you many blessings, all like amplified all at once, you know? But that's just what
Whoa.
that reminds me of.
Did you hear that, Nabiha? I know Nabiha is listening right here. I know this means something to her. So thank you for that. Bless it. You already blessed me right now because I didn't even know that. You know, I
I've
didn't even
heard,
know that that was. You know.
yeah, I've heard that from a few people that supposedly that it's considered like a sacred blessing when a hummingbird comes by, especially if they come up and they hover and they like, I've had them do that in the garden and I'm like, oh, like it's so cool. Even bees do that sometimes if you don't swat at them. If you like love a bee, then you look at it, they'll float right in front of your face
Mhm.
and give you so many blessings. Like it's so cool, you know?
Yeah,
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 I think so.
yeah. And it's like it's almost like the bees want to be beside you when you're being. You know, when
Yes.
you're being. You know that you see all the bees when you're just being. You
Yeah.
know.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, we're conditioned to swat at things when yeah, I mean there are some actually even the bad bugs that can bite you like wasps and stuff, don't swat at them either. Like you want to get as still as you can around bugs. Um, you learn that when you're in the garden, you know? I've definitely had my times where I like my energy and then like I was like came out of an area and like wasps were like coming at me and I was like, oh, because it's my energy was like chaotic too, you know? So if you
Right.
just really calm down, you know, then you can like they just see you as like a tree or something and move on, you know? But like it's interesting. I've actually had a couple of bee things happen in the last year or so where like a bee has like done that. And I see even that fractal stuff in their eyes. Like they get really close and hover and it's like a magical, that's like total blessings, you know? And then birds too. We've had these little blue, like fluorescent bluebirds coming around lately. And those seem like they just seem like they're bringing little blessings with them. It's so cool. I love it.
Wow.
Spring is awesome.
I'm learning so much from you right now, Dani. So
Oh,
the birds,
oh, thanks.
the bees bring blessing.
Yeah, I didn't even expect to talk about all this, but I guess because spring, because I'm a farmer and it's like sunny today, and I just feel so like it's nice, you know? It's good to acknowledge the nature that's around you. I mean, even if you like live in an apartment building and there's one little patch of grass and flowers, you can see like a whole little ecosystems in there. Like if you stop long enough to look, there's nature everywhere, you know? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
So I love that the birds and bees bring blessings, you know, and it is your vibratory state does affect things around you. You know, you
Yeah.
reminded me now, I know you go by the kitten monk, you
Yeah.
know, when I was around like some monks and nuns from Myanmar, there was a Burmese nun and she was one of the most peaceful people that I had ever met. You know, even in a conversation, she was so present with herself. She was never in a rush to do anything, to say anything, to be anything, to to do. She was very conscious about every word that she would make sure to really formulate a thought before she spoke, before she uttered. I had so much respect for this woman. And there was one time that a bee was, circling us, and me not really being experienced, I'm like, just look at the bee, and the bee landed on her hand. And so she just looked at the bee, and then she just let the bee just run along her hand and just kind of observed the bee, just looked at the bee so tenderly, so lovingly. You would have thought it was a caterpillar or a butterfly, right? You you wouldn't have thought it was this thing with, that people are swatting at and afraid of. She
Yeah.
just looked at it with just so much love and reverence for its being, just for that consciousness inside this bee. that blessed her in that moment, that
Yes.
it affected me just to witness her witnessing the bee. That affected me,
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah.
I've at times in my life where even if I've been, holding my stress on the outside or like anxious, I forgot and gotten nervous around bees and stuff in the garden and even in that environment, you just have to remember to, it's all part of this whole like slowing down and being still more and just being able to try to love everything around you. Not try, but just let that love, go around you because the bees and everything will feel it. So, yeah, no, I understand. There's a lady in te I think she's in Texas.
Mm.
I feel so bad because I don't know her like handle. I don't know. I forget what it is. You might know who she is, but she's a famous lady now. I feel like she's even been on Joe Rogan and stuff, and like, um, she goes, people call her, and she goes and gets these huge beehives out of places where people are freaking out, like scared of them. And she goes without a beekeeper suit on or anything. She just goes with her jeans and her, like her little ball cap on, and she walks in there, and her voice is so like she narrates it, and she's like so gentle, and she goes in and she explains and she says how amazing, how many, like how big of a honeycomb, and she starts eating the honeycomb right there, sitting with them, and they're all around her, and she's super calm, and not one bee stings her, and she looks for the queen and then she finds the queen, and because that's all they're swarming for really, and she puts the queen in this little clip and keeps it safe and puts her in this box, and then they all go in the box, and she's like, and this was another successful day. Like it's like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, because it's like those are thousands of what people have been taught to think like angry beings. They're not angry, they're just working super hard, and they're working for their queen, and if if they feel like someone disturbs her in a bad way, then it causes unrest in the hive, but they're just making honey, they're just doing their thing, they're doing their job, it's not to be feared. So it's even like that could go out into society and how people see everything. If you go out, it's like nobody, like everyone's not like angry or crazy or gonna like hurt you or something, it's like, I was on a hike like recently, and I ran into these people from Germany that were here, and it was in a place where there's a hot spring on the side that's like in Arizona, like down this wash, and there's also a river, like a creek, but big river kind of creek place, and they were coming back from that, and the person I was with like joked about in the buff. He said, "Are you gonna go in the buff? Like, are you gonna go naked, like jump in the river or whatever?" And they were like, "Oh, no, no." And they said, "Well, maybe in Germany, but not in America." And I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." Like really? And and they were just like, "Well, and I said, why do you say that? Like, I'm just curious. Well, we watch, and we see so many crazy things, so many crazy people there, and like they spoke a little English, but they were just like saying, and there it was like they're saying like, I don't trust those kind of people, but we have to like, that's something that we need to work on, because everybody all over the world should be able to jump in the damn river in the buff in front of whoever and be okay with their naked body self, because we all came here that way. And I'm not everybody's. Some people are shy, I get that. I wasn't. I was wearing shorts and whatever because it's like hiking down a wash in Arizona, so I myself wasn't like that, but it was just interesting to hear that reaction, that like I'd feel comfortable here but not here, because I think these people might be weird or do something to me, and it's all assumption. Like if we could get rid of that and just go out with a clear, loving, heart and mind, and realize that maybe all good things can happen, or even if bad things can happen, we can help some people through those things because we came out with all this love, instead of just preconceived notions of bad, there's no reason for it. That was long.
I I saying it's like when you talk about the assumptions,
Yeah.
like the law of assumption, instead of assuming the worst, why not assume assume the best, you know? Like
Yeah.
assuming that something good could happen or something good would happen or may happen. Why not assume that instead of assuming the opposite, you
Yeah.
know? So it's just another frame or another paradigm shift that could actually lift a situation when you assume that, not everyone is like that. And one
Yeah.
of the that actually taught me that not everyone is like that, it was actually traveling, you know?
Hmm.
Travel taught me to go beyond those preconceived notions and my own perception, my own perspective that was permeating in the collective. When I actually traveled and went to these places and saw these spaces and was in these spaces, I was like, wow, they're not racist, like they're people, people are people. That's what I learned. I was like, okay,
Yep.
the sky is still the sky. Okay, people are still people. They might speak a different language than me, but they're the same.
Yeah.
They smell the same way. They laugh the same way. I'm like, wow, how are we so different? How are we so
Not.
different?
We're
That
not.
was one big lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We're not different. I'm you and you are me.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lyric from an old song. That's funny. Anyway, yeah, no, it's true. That's beautiful what you're saying, because that's what I mean. Like, it made me kind of sad to hear people say that, coming from kind of a fearful place. Like, oh, like I didn't, I would want them to come to my home and feel as home as they do in their home, in their creek. So I'm hoping that all these things can change. I feel like, we are, I don't want to put a name on it, but there's definitely like a lot of things that have happened recently have put into play a great something. Because there's like a lot of change happening, and I feel it happening really fast. It's like a letting go. It's like I feel it more as like people are surrendering to it because the power of it, it's a love-based thing that's happening. It's hard to see it right now, probably, because you can see a lot of bad things if you look for them. But I feel like we're leveling up and we're taking everyone with us. Like it's not like just some people. It's like there's like all these different. Ooh, this gets into something else that we might not even talk about today, but there are false prophets out there, and I wanted to talk about it a little, but not too much. But like an interesting thing, like I mean, even part, and no disrespect to anyone, of course, because I love when people tell me the truth, because that's what I want. So, but I feel like a couple of people have actually been afraid to come on here and talk to me. Not afraid, but like I don't know how to explain it. It's hard to put it in the right words, but it's like I have this way where like, and it's happened to me a lot, and it brings out anger in some people sometimes, so I have to be careful. But like, it's like being around me makes people feel really real and really comfortable, and they like feel like themselves. So then they like sometimes panic, and they're like, "Oh no, I have to like, wait, I can't like do that fake persona that I was like, that thing that marketing tool or that thing I was trying to do or whatever. Like I can't, maybe I can't do that. And if this person talks to me live, I might like." People might not know or something. I don't know. This sounds mean. I'm not trying to be mean to anyone. And I'm giggling about it because there's no reason for it. Because what I saw in the people that I've asked to come on the show is beautiful. Like I see like the most beautiful parts of people, and that's the key is that like I don't see the front that they have going even. I see the soul. I feel the energy. So like I asked them to, but it's interesting because there are a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I could just jump on here and like, you know, yeah, I'm gonna be actually going on a call on Sunday that should be interesting with someone who just posted the other day saying, "Oh, there's like tens of thousands of people with like 47 followers and blah 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 and like all these everyone can do this now, right?" But I feel like you can see authenticity, like when you and Nabiha were on here, like that's what I kept saying to you guys. You guys are so authentic. Like it's you see it, you feel it, like it's there. You can't fake that. I mean, pretty much everyone you've had on your podcast has been like just beaming with like, all kinds of authenticity. It's very cool. And I feel like you and I, like why I relate to you a lot is because I feel like, I mean, you've been doing this way longer than me. I just started, so you're very seasoned at it, but I feel like you had the same intention, which is you just want to give people a safe space to say what's real, and not be like, hey, I'm coming on here with this whole like thing. Like I'm not, I mean, I think that people should donate for other people's time. I think that's good. I think that people like yourself and other people should like have that on there when you're online because you're bringing in a service that they would normally pay, like to go to a yoga class or go to a breathwork thing. That's normal. Like I think that's good and that's a beautiful thing. But then there's false prophets, which my friend Sarah Zula, my coach also, Sarah, she put a post up last week about that, and it was literally like the day someone canceled, and it was like about that. And so I've been really thinking about it a lot. And there's no judgment on anyone who may have thought they were coming at something authentically, but maybe, it's they were doing it for the wrong reasons, or like there was a monetary thing behind it or something like that. Sorry, this is long-winded again, but my point is, first of all, I want anyone that comes on here to know that I get along with everyone, and this is the safest possible space that I could imagine. But it is interesting to me because if someone feels in them like threatened by someone like me in any way, because they're gonna have to be so honest, um, that's such a beautiful thing. Like I feel like that's an open invitation to look within themselves right then and like let go and surrender and be like, okay, I'm giving into this whole thing that's happening because it's just so much easier to like just let go and like, just let it be like how it's supposed to be. And even if you think you don't like that, you being that way, when you open your eyes again, keep doing it, and I'm sure that you'll fall in love with yourself.
That's that's it. That's it.
That was super long-winded and
That's it.
all over the place, but
No, fall in love with yourself. Like there's so much freedom and liberation in letting go. I remember listening, Dani, when you reminded me just now. There was a tribe I heard of that I don't know what back in the day, or maybe one of their customs was trapping monkeys, and
mhm.
this tribe would take like a gourd or something, or maybe a coconut or something. They would hollow it out, and they would put these nuts into this thing, and then they would have a rope at the end of it, and they would fling it out there, and or just wait, and maybe a monkey or something would come up and stick its hand,
Oh,
and stick its hand inside of this thing and grab the nuts or the
right,
cookies or whatever they had inside it. And then it tried to, you know, take its hand out. It couldn't take its hand out.
right.
It was trapped. So it was trapped because its hand was in a fist like this. But all it needed to do was let go.
Yeah,
And it didn't understand that if it just let go of what it was holding on to, so desperately holding on, it wanted what was inside, but it was holding on to something that was holding on to it,
yep,
and it relinquished its freedom for that form of fulfillment that it wasn't getting.
yeah.
So that was the sacrifice, and they were able to reel them in, just reel them in just like that because they wouldn't let go,
But
you know.
that's the key though to that is also kind of part of what I was saying is that they thought they would be better once they got what was inside that clenched up hand. But they didn't really need that. They didn't
Thank,
really need the nuts right then,
thank you.
right?
Thank. That's the lesson.
Like,
Yeah.
Because you think you have to hold on to that perception of yourself, you know, but it's not necessary.
Right.
It really isn't.
So we can actually become possessed by our possessions,
Yes.
you know, like who's being possessed, you know? So that's a great lesson. Thank you for that, because I mean, there's been so many times you could think back in your own life where you thought, if I just hold on to this thing, or you didn't want to let it go, but when you finally were able to release and let it go, you
I
know,
almost started crying because my farm, this is one of the things that Sarah, one of the breakthroughs in my 12 weeks of doing this coaching intensive thing that I just finished with her. That was one of the biggest takeaways. My language changed from I lost my farm last year to it was time to move on to this like more beautiful place that like I decided to move on, that it was I made a great decision to move on, that like all the different more positive, but like I was holding on to that place more than that's like a huge one for me. I thought if I don't have this farm right here, this specific one, that like, you know, isn't that crazy? Like look where I am now. I mean, I can't even imagine being back there, even though it was under a Buddhist temple and it was all these things. It was still, you know, it was also right above a place where they separated cattle from moms from babies, and by the hundreds. So there would be hundreds of baby cows screaming a couple times a month for like a week. There was, you know, right there is a Buddhist temple, an organic farm, and then there's like a guy that's drunk and like, you know, yelling and screaming at his girlfriend, and another, like, there was all these different things. It was such a, like, it's interesting because it was in a mandala of a Buddhist temple. And so a lot more stuff comes out, I feel like, in those even higher energy places. But yeah, at the time I grasped onto it so hard. I was like, no, like I can't, you know, and here I am now, like, and that was really that language when I learned that with Sarah, when it was like this one day where it was like a breakthrough, where she kept just repeating it to me, did you lose your farm? And I was like, no, I didn't lose my farm. How do you lose your farm? Like she said, you just like you losing your keys or something. Like you can't just lose a farm, you know? So it's that same feeling where I thought I needed it so bad to be, just to be. And actually, no, I needed me. I needed me to be. I'm sounding like you now. It's rubbing off on me in the best way.
I love it. I love
Great.
Thank you. You
Thank
know,
you.
thank
Yeah.
you for your testimony, because, you know, Dani, I think we all can find an example of something like that in our lives, which you just described, that we can all feel that vibe, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, it's hard. It's not easy to let go. It's not easy to let go of anything, anyone, anything, any notion of ourselves, how we think we are. Um, to become authentic, you have to let go of all those things. You have to let go of all anything preconceived like that, I think, and not be afraid of what's on the other side of it, because what's on the other side of it is the real, authentic you. And then peace, you know, breath, relaxing a moment, not chasing your tail anymore, all those good things. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still in it. I'm still learning. I'm no, you know, I tell everybody I'm not a master of anything. I like that word. It sounds really cool. I mean, there's people that I definitely think are masters, but I'm just learning. So I like to share, and this is new, and I love doing this, and I love being able to come on here and have so much energy going. I love it. It's great. You know, I encourage others to do it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are isolated and alone and maybe have a phone, and if this could reach even one person, that makes my heart happy. So it's good that we're doing this. And um, yeah, I want to mention kind of, I haven't talked about this. I felt like inclined to mention it, I guess. I don't even know if I've told you that I'm a musician. I think I have. Obviously, there's that thing right
Yeah,
there. Uh,
right.
but no, there's Prophet and Monk. Prophet, Profit, and then AND, and then Monk. And you said something about Monk too. I'll rewind just slightly. The Kitten Monk, this page started by my cat, Mr. Bella, when I rescued him. I was calling him that because he was near death when I rescued him, and I actually stayed in a house that was closer to the Buddhist temple at that time, with one of the people that like worked up there. Like long story, but anyway, when I had him, he was the kitten monk, so I just used to call him that. Um, Plus, I was around monks a lot at that time, so the page actually started out with a cat rescue, and it became, like just a, I guess, a journal of that. And then I rescued a bunch of kittens during the pandemic because people were throwing them away in the trash. And I had like a mom that had babies, and I rescued her. And then there was other babies being found, and like we were putting all these kittens with her to to nurse them and everything. So like it kind of became the kitten monk because of that. During that time, I was rescuing a lot of cats and finding them beautiful homes, or I have some of them still. And um,
How,
my
how many
brother
time would you say like that you had at one time? What was the
of
max you had?
cats.
Yeah.
um, it's funny because my friend Tommy and I used to joke about it because she rescued cats too in Indiana or Illinois at the time, but um, we would say who has more. I think at one time I had the mom, and she had her own two babies, and then two babies that were brought to us. So there was five of them, and then I had my two other cats, and then I had these two other cats. I had another cat that was at my farm, that was Nala and Simba, my two cats that were at my farm. So technically, I had nine cats, I guess,
Wow.
in two properties.
Wow.
But then I found homes for them.
I
My
know.
Yeah, my brother who's lives in Phoenix. Um, Hi Sajam, if you're out there, I miss you. He has the mom Raja, who is was named already, and Raja, who's my brother's dog growing up, which is so cool. It's like his same name is Raja. So he has Raja, and little Frank was another one. They thought Frank was a boy, turned out to be a girl, and so. He has little Frank and Raja, and it's so cool because my brother is disabled from having a stroke, and he had a bunch of about well, it's been a few years now. Time flies, but he was a DJ and a sportscaster, and in like bands and all the stuff. And then all of a sudden, boom, he had a stroke, and he was in a coma for a long time. And he's amazing, and I just have to speak on him for a minute because he is such a light and such an inspiration to people because he learned how to do everything again. He's talking and walking, and his voice is right back to sounding like a radio announcer again. And but why I'm telling you is because after I came back, I moved back from Tucson, I had all these kittens, and he fell in love with them, seeing pictures of them. So I had to convince, or we had to convince his mentor and coach, who teaches him Tai Chi, is also his like the leader of the house where he lives because he lives in a house with other people. And long, long story short, my brother has Raja and Frank, and they are his therapy angels. And it was really cool that it ended up that way. Long-winded, but it was so cool because there was this whole thing where like we tried to get him and like pick him up from him because he wasn't allowed to have them, and now he does. And like it's amazing. Animals can heal people, and it really has helped him so much to have them. So I'm so glad. And then I found really good homes for all the other ones because I had to. I would keep them all. I could be a crazy cat lady or whatever if that's where you're going. I know you weren't going there, but that's uh, me and my friend used to joke with each other because we've had numbers of them, and I've rescued probably hundreds of animals since I was 4 years old, literally, and found them homes. So, yeah, it seems really important. But the kitten monk thing, so then monk came later because of living under the Buddhist temple and starting to do a lot more meditation practice. And spending every Thanksgiving for 8 years with Tibetan monks, Garchen Rinpoche, and the house monks, they call them, or the house lamas. So blessed to have done that. So that name kind of stuck because of that. And then now what I was going to mention was that Prophet and Monk is the duo that I'm half of. I think Isaiah might have even been on here. Like I said, I can barely see the chat, but hello, Isaiah, if you're on here. He is Prophet Zay, who's the other half, who came to Arizona from Texas. He is actually back there now, near where you are, and he has family in San Antonio, actually. And we have taken a pause because his father passed away. Unfortunately, it was a year ago, just the day before yesterday. And so he's been home with his mom and his family, which is awesome. They're because there are new babies in the family and all kinds of things. And he's been helping his mom with her new house. And so we've taken a little break from things, but we recorded over 40 songs when we got together and started making music. And we released 17 of them last year. And we played 16 shows and a festival. And so us taking a break, I think, makes total sense. A lot of people are like, where'd they go, man? Because, like, we played here in Prescott, so I see people and they're like, what happened to you guys? Like, we're recharging, you know? And we have a bunch of songs that we're going to start releasing. We're figuring out how to do that remotely, mixing and sending each other stuff back and forth. But I don't know if you've ever heard it. If anyone else wants to listen, we are on Spotify. And the music, the lyrics came from like the time of he's gone through a bunch of transformation too, obviously with his father dying and just his own personal things, and then mine, and like our lyrics came together and made this like amazing mesh of some inspirational words and music that neither one of us could have made without the other, you know. So it's really cool, and we're gonna hopefully be going on live to talk soon. He's been really busy, I've been really busy, and we're going to start releasing music again, which is going to be really awesome because we have like 20 or 30 songs undone right now that are, a lot of them are about love. One of them is even called I Love It So Much. So um, that was long also, but I haven't like mentioned any of that, and I was hoping maybe I didn't know if you had listened to any of it, but I followed you from that other page, which we have on here.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you
and
for letting us know.
yeah.
Thank you for speaking on that, sharing your story, letting us know where it all started, how it all began, and the origins. There's so much power in your story, to just the meaning behind it all, the purpose behind it all, and what keeps you on purpose and in service in that way. So, before we go, let people know, like, where on Spotify can they find it?
On Spotify, well, if you go on here on Instagram to our page, which is Prophet and Monk, it's PROFITANDMONK.
Okay.
There's a link to a Tap Talk page, which links to every single thing, all of our everything. And the music, yeah, we haven't, released a song in a little while. Our last live show was on December 23rd, right before Christmas. It was the best show for me, at least. I don't know, you'd have to ask him, but he probably agrees. It was one of the best shows ever, that I thought that we did. It was in the town square here at night with like all the Christmas lights on and all kinds of people. It was really cool. Awesome. But yeah, they can find us on Spotify and Apple Music and all the different things. And we're going to start going, why I say on here, if you go follow us on there, because we'll start doing lives, because I was going to do some of the podcasts where we like upload our songs and talk about how they're made and that kind of stuff, because no one's heard from us in a while.
They just tagged it, Dani. Nabiha tagged them, and they're here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So they
That's
said, hey, what's up?
He's on.
Nabiha, thank you, Nabiha.
Nice.
And,
I can see it. Yeah.
Awesome.
He's also Prophet Day Music. He has his own music and page and album that he's coming out with, and I also have my own other millions of projects and songs and things. So we have a lot of things that we're almost all the way done, and yeah, I just felt like speaking on it just because I haven't been able to lately, and I wanted to do that. And I hope that you get a chance to listen to some of our. It's really good roller skating music and really good dancing, like to get like your body moving kind of music. Really good beats. A lot of the beats were we made together, and because we both, you know, do recording and make beats, and we both play piano and we both sing. So it's really cool. Check it out. Hopefully we'll go on. Maybe I can get him to go on live later today. I was already gonna try, but we'll see. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
this has been amazing. Thank you so much once again for having me on here on your show, and just, we'll continue. I look forward to seeing where things go from here and grow from here. And just thank you for coming from the heart all the time. There's been just a constant theme of that heart-centeredness that
yeah.
you put in that you do, and we feel it through and through. We feel
Thanks.
it. So thank you.
Hey, wait, before you go though, can you also speak on how to is your podcast is through Anchor also, right? And is on Spotify, and how can you tell everyone the name of your podcast and all the ways to find you? And then I've been missing Qigong the last couple of days because of the time change. It's you guys are a little bit earlier. Um, or it's 2 hours later there. So, but let everybody know how to find you also, please, before this is over. Your
Okay.
podcast and everything else that you do.
Okay. Sure, and thank you. Thank you for that. I'll definitely plug, the Open Palm podcast can be found on all platforms. That's one of the things that I love about Anchor, is that it blasted to everywhere. So everywhere podcasts are played, you can find mine just by typing The Open Palm. Yeah, so The Open Palm podcast. And for YouTube, just type in my name, Jerome Shaw. You'll find all my videos there. And for Instagram, right here, J. Rome Shaw. That's me. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and on here it's J Rome. I told a couple people that because they were looking. It's the
Hmm.
letter J and then Rome,
Hmm.
but you're Jerome. You spell it the regular Jerome way, but on here it's that. So yeah. And I love Open Palm. That's a cool. I love that name. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, can we do this again? I'll leave it up to you. I'm sure you've been really busy. You've done a lot of interviews lately, and I've seen a lot of them. So thank you for what you're doing and sharing all that, because everyone has been the lady from Iceland who's a musician, and I'm sorry I can't think of her name right now because I saw it.
Diana. Diana.
She's amazing.
Mm.
That was a real treat, and everyone else is amazing too. So keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and hopefully we can meet here again. And hopefully we can roller skate someday too. My
Yes.
dogs are getting excited. They must know. Thank
All
you,
right.
Jerome. Seriously. So much love to you.
Much love. Much love. Take care.
I
Take
will.
care.
You too. Thanks. All right. Bye.
Bye.